They pulled the lever Friday night. Margin requirements jumped 50% overnight. The 2011 playbook, raise margins, flush leverage, collapse the price. But this time, the dip held at $63.80 and snapped back to $64.90. The question isn't whether they tried to kill the rally. The question is why the kill switch didn't work. Did the paper control system just break, or are they rewriting the rules mid-game? We are going to show you what the failed trap reveals about who is actually buying. Because when the standard weapons stop working, the system has two choices: admit defeat or go nuclear. The mechanics of the trapdoor are simple. The CME raises margin requirements without warning. If you're holding leveraged silver contracts, you now need more cash posted overnight. If you cannot meet the new requirement, your position gets liquidated automatically. Not because silver became worthless, not because fundamentals changed, because the House rewrote the entry fee and the computer enforced it. That forced selling wave is the entire point. This is not people changing their mind about silver. This is people getting kicked out of the trade because they cannot meet the new deposit. The historical precedent is clear. May 2011, silver surged into the high 40s, tagged the $49 area. The crowd was drunk on momentum. Then the exchange reached for the lever. CME raised margins 5 times in 9 days, requirements up 84%. Silver slid from roughly 49 to the mid-30s within a week. That is a 30% collapse. The weapon worked because the buyer base was paper. Hedge funds, futures leverage, SLV options kill the paper demand and the price caves. Go back further. 1980, silver peaked near $50. Exchanges tightened the screws, liquidation-only mode. The market suffered a 50% crash, same weapon, same logic. You do not fight the price with metal, you fight it with rules. Now, understand the leverage casino. One COMEX contract controls 5,000 ounces. At roughly $63 an ounce, that is $315,000 of silver. But until yesterday, you did not need $315,000 to play. Picture what happens when the CME changes the buy-in at 2 a.m. Margin jumps from $12,000 to $18,000 per contract. Only $6,000 more, right? Not if you are holding 1,000 contracts. Yesterday, you needed $12 million posted. Overnight, you need $18 million. Find $6 million immediately, or your position gets sold for you. You do not find $6 million at 2 in the morning. The system sells automatically at market. That is the key distinction. This is not people changing their mind. This is forced liquidation because they cannot meet the new entry fee. That cascade is engineered. One trader sells, the next one panics, and suddenly you have a stampede. The goal is not subtle. Force liquidation, crush leverage, purge the weak hands, break confidence before the weekend when narratives spread faster than orders. Friday matters because it is a headline. Whatever the weekly candle looks like becomes the story people repeat all weekend. The psychological warfare is deliberate. Paint the weekly close red, kill momentum before Asia opens Sunday night. Because Friday afternoon, COMEX shuts down. For roughly 48 hours, the Western paper machine cannot actively lean on the price. But the world does not pause. Cargo moves, deals get cut, headlines hit. When the Middle East and Asia light up Sunday night, trading reopens in a different mood, in a different time zone with a different agenda. If silver closes Friday at or near a new high, it does not just look good on a chart. It broadcasts a message to desks in China and India. The West is struggling to contain the move. That message invites a weekend gap, an ugly, violent gap when markets reopen. Banks know this. That is why they fight hardest at the weekly close. They are not just trading price, they are painting psychology. Because charts are memory. And the weekly candle is the screenshot people carry into Monday. So the weapon was fired, the margin hike landed. The dip came, and then it held. Price stabilized near $64 instead of cascading. Why? Because the buyer base is different now. In 2011, the rally was powered by paper. Hedge funds, futures leverage, SLV options. Physical metal was available. Vaults were not under siege. Kill the paper demand in the price caves. The margin weapon worked because it targeted the right fuel source. Cut off the leverage and the fire dies. In 2025, the bid is not just paper. It is industrial and sovereign money. Cash buyers who do not care what the margin clerk thinks. Tesla does not buy silver on margin. A government stockpiling metal does not get a margin call. Samsung does not post collateral with the CME to secure supply for solar cells. These buyers operate outside the leverage system. They buy physical metal through OTC channels, private deals, direct vault transfers. The paper price is just a reference point. The real transaction happens in London and Shanghai, in private agreements between industrial users and bullion banks. That is why, instead of a brutal 10% day like 2011, today looks like a shallow pullback, less than 1%. More like consolidation than collapse. The trapdoor still kills speculators, but it does not stop a physical buyer. And that is the shift the system does not want to admit. You can jack up margins on paper contracts all day. It will not conjure a single ounce of physical silver into existence. It will not help Samsung solder one more solar cell. It will not restock a London vault. That is the point people keep missing. A margin hike is a weapon designed for a paper battlefield, but what is unfolding now is a physical fight. And you do not win a physical shortage with rule changes and spreadsheets. The absorption pattern tells the story. Every dip got bought. Price did not cascade. It compressed. That means real demand was sitting underneath, waiting for forced supply to spill onto the tape. When leveraged longs got liquidated, someone was calm enough to scoop it. Not panicked retail. Retail runs from red. The buyer is colder. An algorithm, an industrial desk, a sovereign pool of cash sitting with limit orders like a bucket under a shaking tree. That is the structural demand shift. Solar, EVs, semiconductors, consumption that locks metal away permanently. This is not speculative demand. This is industrial demand. And industrial demand does not negotiate with margin policy. If comics prints $40 while real metal clears at $90, no miner sells into comics. Why would they? They sell where the real price is. The physical versus paper divergence is already visible. Retail premiums blow out. Silver Eagles trade at 30-50% over spot in tight periods. That spread is not speculation. That is scarcity. That is what happens when paper trading gets handcuffed while physical demand stays real. It exposes what happens when a paper venue tries to price a physical good. It can tell a lie for a while, but the physical pressure builds, and eventually the lie breaks. The math problem is simple. You cannot raise margins on ghosts and expect metal to appear. The system can still hurt speculators. It can still shake out weak hands. But it cannot stop a buyer who needs the actual metal. And that is why today's reaction matters. The market took the hit, absorbed it, and kept its footing. If the old trapdoor cannot force a real breakdown anymore, then the paper market is losing authority. The physical market looked at the hike, shrugged, and kept buying. That is not defiance. That is indifference. And indifference is more dangerous than panic, because panic means the system still has control. Indifference means the system is becoming irrelevant. If raising margins doesn't break the rally, and physical supply is already tight, the regulators start running out of clean weapons. The playbook narrows. 2 cards remain, and both are ugly. The first is position limits. The exchange can announce that no single entity is allowed to hold more than a certain number of silver contracts. It will be sold to the public as preventing corners and protecting stability. That is the label. The target is something else. It is not the small trader with a handful of contracts. It is the big pools, ETFs, large funds, family offices. Anyone sitting on size that can be tied back to physical metal. Force them to cut positions, and you manufacture selling pressure without touching the fundamental shortage. It has the same trick in a cleaner suit. You do not change the price directly. You change who is allowed to participate. The second card is worse. Liquidation-only mode, the historical turn-off-the-buy button maneuver. For a set period, say 30 days, traders can only sell existing contracts. No new longs, no fresh demand. If nobody's allowed to buy, the paper price can only drift sideways or slide down. In that world, futures could print $50, even $40 on paper, not because silver became abundant, but because the market was handcuffed. But here's the catch. Buyers don't vanish when you ban them from comics. They relocate. They go to Shanghai. They go to London OTC. They go straight to physical dealers and private supply agreements. That is where the great decoupling accelerates. Paper silver at $40 because buying is disabled while physical silver trades at $90, because industry and sovereign cash still needs it. We have seen retail premiums blow out over spot in tight periods even while paper drifts. A wide spread becomes possible when paper trading gets handcuffed while physical demand stays real. It exposes what happens when a paper venue tries to price a physical good. It can tell a lie. And the physical pressure is not theoretical anymore. In parts of the world, we are already seeing signs of strain. Spot prices pulling away from futures. Availability tightening. Products quietly becoming harder to source. This is not speculative demand. This is real metal being pulled forward by real users. Industrial demand does not negotiate with margin policy. If comics prints $40 while real metal clears at $90, no miner sells into comics. Why would they? They sell where the real price is. Vaults drain towards zero. The exchange keeps trading, but it is trading paper ghosts. Claims detached from metal. A zombie market. That is the regulator's trap. Leave the market alone and silver runs toward $100. Interfere too hard and you destroy price discovery and lose control entirely. Damned either way. And that is why a failed trapdoor move is such a loud signal. It shows the casino is losing the ability to rig the game without burning the building down. The failed trap was a test, not of silver's value, but of your conviction. 1 ounce is still 1 ounce. No margin rule changes that. The physical reality did not move. Supply is still tight. Industrial demand is still structural. Subscribe for the Monday Open Analysis. We will track whether Asia gaps it higher or if they have one more trick.